How's it going, Reef Keepers? Just figured I would make a update video on my main display system. Before the month February gets, rolling too far in, I like to make, like a monthly update. So I usually do that around the beginning of the month. But so my update this time around is, pretty glowing. As you can see, things are going pretty good in this tank. I do have several things that kind of make this an odd transition period for the tank. Like not like a major transition thing, but there's enough things going on, enough changes I've made that the tank is kind of like resettling itself. So for one, as you guys know, if you follow pretty closely along, by the way, sorry about the dirty back glass. I got to get that tomorrow. These frags here that came from Tidal Gardens were infested with acro white bugs, right? And I will say that Bolly Green Slimer, it's got some tissue recession there at the bottom, at the base. I'm not sure if it's gonna make it. It's hanging on right now, no polyp extension. The Woolly Green Acro has some polyp extension and it's doing a little better. And then actually the Miyagi Tort has had a decent little bit of polyp extension day in, day out. So I'm pretty happy with the Miyagi. But to update you on that situation, I reached out to my local exotic veterinarian. We had one in my whole county. And I typed out, I'm a writing teacher, so I'm pretty good at, explaining things. And I typed out like a 4-paragraph email just explaining the long and the short of Acropora, their pests, why Interceptor defeats the pests that I'm facing, explaining that corals are in fact animals. Like that was a big part of them actually listening to this plea for medical help. And they actually got back to me and were like, hey, your email made total sense. And turns out they are animals, you're right. And, we're willing to help you. And they're doing a half rate, so they're charging me a half price for a video veterinary appointment, I guess. So that's gonna happen once I get paid again. I'm gonna go ahead and roll with that. It's only $85, but it's tax time, so things are a little bit tight. But yeah, I am gonna get treatment for these, it turns out, and from a local vet. And so what I plan to do is make a video on that and then post in the description of that video what I wrote to my vet, so because I think it really helped that they could just sit with all the information and digest it like that. And I really spent a long time writing it, so hopefully that'll help some people in the future. So be on the lookout for that. Then the next update to do with this tank is this beauty right here. Look at her. This Melanaris wrasse from Dr. Reef's is stunning, healthy, eating like an absolute pig, sleeping in the sand box that I have in there for her. I mean, she is just absolutely taken to the tank conditions, and all the other fish are getting a nice, good long look at her. Hopefully it'll reduce aggression when I do eventually release her to the tank. To give you a quick update on that red-lined wrasse that I had before this one, unfortunately, I got paranoid about the beak wear that I saw on her. Like the skin on her beak was like wearing off, and she looked pretty stressed. So I released her into the tank, hoping maybe her being in the larger tank environment and not banging her beak into the walls of this acrylic box will help the situation. And it did not. She buried herself, and then I think in the night she got spooked and shot up, and she her body looked like she'd sustained pretty serious head trauma. Yeah, it was she was floating around the tank the next morning after I released her. So pretty unfortunate. I was really bummed about it, but when I got the refund from Tidal Gardens for those frags having the pests on them, I went ahead and put that right back into Dr. Reef and got a Melanaris wrasse shipped out. And wow, I mean, I love watching her. I mean, just a beautiful fish. The camera doesn't do her justice. She is stunning. So very happy with that. Then the other change that I've got in the works is kind of not as exciting as frags or new fish. I lengthened the amount of time that my lights are on a given day. So they're now on, there's light being active in the tank 14 hours instead of 12. And then I added a whole hour of full spectrum and full intensity light. And so the tank is undergoing a little bit of like, you know, I don't know what you would call it, but just a shock, not a shock, but like an effect of like, whoa, this is a lot more light than we were getting, especially that full intensity light. So because of that, I have seen like, and I don't know if you can quite see it on camera, but there are like little hints of like, I think diatoms probably that are starting to appear. It is tough to pick it up on camera. But you know, just in the like kind of the bends and crevices of rock, I'm just seeing a little more algae growth, a little more diatom, like just little streaks of diatoms. Not worried about it, not panicked about it. Snails are doing a bang up job. I got plenty of them left, even though the elegans has eaten 2 of them in the last week. Thanks a lot, dude. But of course the tangs pick at the rock all day. And generally I don't see anything getting out of control. I don't, you know, I'm not stressed about it. I'm far enough along in this hobby to understand that, you know, stressing out, freaking out, pouring some God knows what snake oil in your tank to try to fix a problem before it's even begun is a terrible, terrible move. You just got to be patient and let things roll. To walk you through the tank, as you can see, the fish actually are like not being too scared of the camera for once, which is nice. You guys are getting to enjoy them swim around under the full daylight spectrum here. But to take you through the corals along the top of the scape, hard corals that are like established in the tank are doing real well, right? I'm kind of mad that my my 2 acro frags here, I'm gonna have to treat them out of an abundance of caution along with these guys and transfer them into my smaller tank and treat the interceptor in there. They're doing so well, but again, I just don't know. If there's 1 or 2 seed shrimp in this tank, that's what they are. Those white bugs are called seed shrimp. If there's 1 or 2 floating around in there, they'll just repopulate on my existing frags that are doing well. And then I'm gonna have to do the whole thing over again, further stressing out the acro. So I'm not gonna do that. Another interesting thing, the Montes that if you guys recall, I fragged frags of Montes and put them in the new nano tank in the other room, hoping, because I have Monte eating nudibranchs in here. So I was like, oh man, you know, I can save them maybe if I frag like the tips off of some of these. Well, it turns out that the Monte eating nudies are like nowhere to be found now. They ate an entire Acropora except for this tiny little bit that's left right there that didn't break away with the rest of it when I took it out, or when I took it out of its position. And I don't know. I don't know where they went. I assume they're still in the tank. I think you have to be Monte fallow for like 6 months or something crazy like that in order for them not to reestablish. But at this point, what I'm hoping is that I can release that Melanaris wrasse and it will keep the Monte eating nudibranchs in check, right? It's not like a total eradication or a total solve, but those things are pretty noticeable. And I would like to think that, you know, a big healthy wrasse like that, I mean, there's much bigger wrasses, but big for a tank my size, will absolutely take those out. So we'll see. Other coral in the tank, LPS, doing really good. You can see the Duncans, per usual, super happy. You know, if those ever start going south, I know something's really weird, you know, with the tank water parameters or whatever. I moved around my Blastos. So this colony's grown out of the rock. It's not moving. I moved 1 colony over here. It's loving the additional light that it's getting. You can see it's all puffed up. And then I moved this guy up onto this ledge here, and it's the same. I mean, it's totally happy in that position. But let's see here. Alveopora, doing nice, all engorged. As usual, people have so many problems with elegans coral in this hobby, and so many weird diseases that get them and stuff, and this thing's bulletproof for me. I mean, it is just a beast. It eats my snails left and right. I mean, it's what draws the eye immediately to this tank. And it's right in the corner. Like when you walk into this room, that's the first thing that catches your eye, that movement, and people are just drawn right to it. Most people who are not in the hobby think it's an anemone. So I just let them think what they want to think. It's so much to explain, and they don't care. Their eyes glaze over in 5 seconds when you try to correct them. So, and then I will say the increased light schedule has meant that these rock flower nems are happier than ever. I mean, they are just absolutely, you know, fully swelled up. Super, super pleased. So yeah, some things in the tank are like really genuinely happy with that increased light. But I have one other thing going on that I'll mention. By the way, all this sand on the rocks that you see here, it's from the sand that this wrasse kicks out of the tub in here and then swims around and swooshes sand out of the grill in the bottom of that acclimation box. So I'm gonna blow all that off with a power head tomorrow. Don't worry. The other thing that I have going on is that I have the limpet population in my tank has exploded over the last month. At night, when I shine a light in this tank, there are hundreds of limpets everywhere in here. And interestingly, they don't seem to be bothering the acros. I guess some, species of limpet do eat the base of acros. I haven't seen any of that, thank God. But what I had, because there's no way to, I don't know how I would eradicate these things. Here's what is happening. You can see how pockmarked the coralline that usually is just like a solid sheet across everything. You can see this like erosion in the coralline. That's them. They're eating the coralline algae in this tank. You can see still, like I have that super fast growing coralline. You can see, this is like a week. It's already like growing out from there. They would have to be an absolute army and a half of these things to take out all the coralline in the tank. I'm not worried about that. You can still see how much purple is on the rocks, right? But I will say, I am seeing more areas where at least for a couple of days before the coralline reseeds, they do knock it down a little bit. I actually think it might be good. This would be something for Salem Clemens, who sometimes, catches a video on my channel. This would be something for him to weigh in on. Does coralline, in the real reef in the ocean, it gets continuously eaten away. Even though it's continuously growing, it also gets eaten away by numerous organisms. Do sheets and sheets, layers of coralline on the rock for long periods of time that are never disturbed. Does that reduce the efficiency of the biofiltration of reef rock? Is it sealing the rock kind of so that there's, some processes that are not happening to the extent that they otherwise would in the ocean, where that rock is quote unquote renewed because organisms eat those layers of coralline algae off? I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me to learn that there's some, passing benefit to having the coralline, eaten away and regrow, eaten away, regrow. It's just releasing areas of my rock, and releasing raw areas of rock to be reseeded by fresh coralline. To me, it's not a big deal. And my coralline is so prolific, it's verging on annoying. So I'm not against these things eating it. There's just a ton of limpets in this tank. So I don't know if the wrasse will enjoy picking off some of the smaller ones, maybe. But yeah, I'll have to take a picture at night sometime because it's bonkers how many there are. But yeah, guys, I appreciate you listening to me ramble again. I try to keep us under 10 minutes, but I fail all the time in my goals for length on these videos. But yeah, the tank's doing great. So even though we're in kind of a transition period, I have plenty of work to do, plenty of videos to make while I go through this next little, chapter of its story, so to speak. I couldn't be happier. I love this hobby. So, all right, guys, hope everybody's doing well. Have a great weekend, and please like and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Would love to have you follow along with my week-to-week journey. I post as much as I can. Have a good one, guys.